All right, we're back. Welcome to Terry and Gary's Low Expectations podcast, home of low expectations and even lower podcast subscription numbers. I'm Gary. He's my co-host, pro wrestling superstar Terry, the man beast Rhino.
Here I am.
What's up?
Fourth show, right?
Fourth, I think so.
Yeah, we're. It seems like we're picking up some steam. We've got some great guests today, and we've been very lucky.
I think we should rename it Terry and Gary's Champion podcast. I mean, everyone we've had on here has been a champion. We've had
Like
Rob Miller,
right?
Sci-Fi Face-Off champion, Bronco McCart, World Boxing champion. Me, I'm 6-year-old chocolate milk bowling champion.
I heard about that.
We got 2 more champions on here today.
Correct.
I think that's about it, right?
No, what about me?
That's not all about you, Terry.
I know.
Okay.
I'd like to make it all about me, but
right?
Darren, no love. Todd, no love here.
My name's on this podcast, too.
I know.
Dude, I'm loving that shirt, by the way, right now.
We got to get you guys.
No, absolutely. That is so great.
So today we had 2 more champions to our list.
Correct.
We've got Todd Williams, 6-time state champion, NC All-American, 2-time Olympian.
Yeah, out of Monroe High School.
Out of Monroe High School, that's right, and the University of Tennessee.
Now doing my thing in Monroe Jiu-Jitsu, so
yeah, that's right.
Pretty excited.
Born and raised?
Yes, born and raised in Monroe, and then went to University of Tennessee. And then from there, I just worked my can off and made a couple Olympic teams and got old and retired from running and then got into jiu-jitsu and been doing that the last 20 years.
Nice.
You got the most hair here, and you're talking about you got old.
Right.
Oh, no,
right.
I think Terry's got a
Not
little
just,
bit of hair.
not, no, but, and like great flow.
It's like,
A great, absolutely.
He does.
I don't know if
perfect
it's
salt and
the
pepper
snow in front of the church coming down, Todd's hair.
Yeah.
You know,
It's a moment. It's
Legend Rhino sitting beside me. You, Gary, keeping the low and low expectations podcast. I love it.
That's why I'm here. And that guy right there talking is 4-time Stanley Cup champion, Darren McCarty.
Yeah, just me. That's it. That's
The voice. He could be the voice of our podcast.
We need
got to
a
have
voice.
him back.
We
Yeah,
need
yeah.
somebody.
There you go. Oh, you need that's the old God voice, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Gary, that is too low. Be nice to Terry. It's all about Terry on Terry and Gary's Low Expectations podcast. No, I'm happy to be here, guys, and obviously, growing up, I grew up in the area in Leamington, across the border, but it's pretty cool in 2020 to be able to sit around the table and what I've realized. I'm sure you have too, Todd, and I know Rhino, you have not taken enough chairs to the head to you still realize this. It's about the people and the relationships and to be here in Michigan.
Yep.
I consider myself Michigan's favorite stepchild, and it's about me, so nobody can
Right.
take that away from me. But I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, we're happy to have you. And the great thing about Michigan, we accept people when they come in, and whether you're homegrown or you move here, we're very well accepting, and we especially when you set roots and you do the amazing things that you have done in hockey. It's like we don't want you to move away.
Well, I think here's the point too, is right. But there's not sort of expectation, but the thing about being from Michigan, whatever, is that morally good or bad, we make the right decisions based on what's best for the people. Now you have to fall in line and be part of the way. Now I grew up in the area, so I knew like that, and being part of the grind line was always the greatest thing to have your own line, because you grew up to be named after something, but it reminds me of working on the front line, and that's what it's the hard work. So to stick around with the knowledge, but also too is I've learned from the people how to be a Detroiter, how to be a Michigander, and I'm proud of it. And anybody who comes in, we're welcoming to that. But you got to act right, or else we'll kick your ass right out. And we got Todd. He went from running to jiu-jitsu, so he'll kick your ass. Terry will take a chair to you. Yeah. Gary will say some really, really low expectation stuff,
really dumb stuff,
and I'll hit you with a cup. You're all good.
Call it a day.
Exactly.
So Todd, what was it like being in the Olympics?
I went over to the high school the other day and talked to the soccer team, and I try to talk to as many teams as I can locally just to get this next generation moving. And I listened to your guys' podcast last week with Bronco talking about getting these kids working hard, and some of the younger generation just doesn't understand that. But one of the questions came up: Would you think about being in the '92 Barcelona games and '96 Atlanta? And now that I'm older and I look back on it, it was really all the great people that I met. It was so awesome to meet Michael Jordan and meet Magic Johnson and Michael Chang and Pete Sampras and John Smith. And, you're sitting there in the Olympic Village and you're having coffee and picking the brains of some of the best athletes in the history of the planet. And so to me, it wasn't really my experience in the competition, which was, that was a lot of pain to finish 10th in the Olympic Games, but it was just all the cool people I met. It was, it was it was just a dream come true.
But did you realize that you were one of those elite athletes in that village? I mean, was that something that dawned on you that you deserve to be here because you're one of the, you're one of them. You're one of the best athletes in the world at that time.
Coming from Monroe and the way my dad raised me, I always thought I was junior varsity. I thought I was junior varsity all the way until I retired.
6-time
Michigan
State champion.
That's the mentality. But you know what? That goes to exactly what you're talking about, because that's the Michigan, the Detroit, whatever it is. It's to put your head down, work. You're no better than anybody else, and you got something to bring to the table. Now, you understood that you went to college and you were making these teams. You knew that you were good, but you also knew your bread and butter was that any time it could be taken away from you. So it's that sort of fear of failure. Right, I was the same way. Is that 100%. Nobody taking it away from me? I mean, I'm going to get there and I'm going to do whatever it takes.
Yeah, I think my biggest thing, with going to practice and I just remember my dad dropped me. I started age group swimming at age 4 at the YMCA here, and I remember my pops had dropped me off. And my dad worked in a foundry for 40 years, at Ford. So
God bless him.
So he would drop me off at practice and say, that coach better remember your name when you come back to this car. And I was like 5, and I'm like, what's he talking? 5, and that's my mentality. It was like every practice. I treated like it was the world championship or the biggest game ever was every practice to me.
Now, if you didn't have that type of leadership at home, do you think you would have gotten to the level that you reached? Or?
I think my pops and my family, I had a really supportive family. But again, thinking about coming from Monroe, I had a lot of great friends, a lot of great teachers, a lot of great coaches, and that's one thing I always touch on when I talk to the kids. It's like, you have to surround yourself with good people, and make smart choices. Not that I made all smart choices, because there are some bumps in the road along the way. But, I had, when I think about people here locally, Randy Monday, when I played football, he was my freshman football coach. And he said, man, I think you could run, man. You're really kicking butt on the conditioning drills. I'd like to see you go run track. And so then I went to Navarre Field. I ran a 4:32 mile. And then, and I was like, all I knew was it hurt really bad. And all my friends were playing football, baseball, basketball. But Randy Monday was a guy that said, I think you need to really stick with running. And so then he introduced me to my, Coach Dave Bork. Yep. And he was the one that really gave me the thought process that I could make it, because he ran with an Olympian in college. So he brought that type of work to our program at Monroe High School. So he wasn't afraid to make us work hard. I was running 90 miles a week in high school.
Wow.
But you look back and you say, because it's anything else. Is it anybody around this table is it's all about the hard work. What do you put in to get out? Look at the end of the day, it's the first thing. I got to remind myself that when I think that just because I watch golf on TV that I can play it like that and but you don't practice, you just go out and play, tee it up.
Yeah.
You're not going to get any better. It's reality, but it's that hard work and that work ethic. And then as you got older, it was second nature, right?
Yeah. And I do think, my friends here, now that I was gone for 30 years, I come back and I still have buddies that I was 4 years old. That's the reason I love Monroe. It's like I can go out to eat and I'll see somebody that I knew since kindergarten, or
I love it.
And they come up and they're like, man, you're wired different. And I'm just now accepting that I'm wired. We're wired a little.
We're wired. We have to be to get to where
we're wired a little different. But
I
also think everybody can be better.
Yes.
Everybody can be better.
Yes.
They might not make it to this, win a Stanley Cup or make it to the Olympics or, do but they can still get up every day and try to be better.
Right.
At life.
Yeah.
Right.
Can I ask you a question, Tom? Because it goes back to when you were talking about the 92 and the 96 Olympics and you're sitting around the village. Did you got any juice? Did you ask anybody? Did you ask anybody anything that you're like, man, I learned this about? So the other day I'm interviewing Don Jamieson for my Grind Time with Darren McCarty podcast. And Don Jamieson was on that metal show with Jim Florentine and Eddie Trunk, and he's been around. He's a comic. And I said, dude, what we got any stories? He said, yeah, I ran into Kiefer Sutherland, Jack Bauer for 24 about 6-7 years ago in LA, and he was so hammered. And when I left, I had a hickey from Kiefer Sutherland. So I don't mean anything like that, but did you ask anybody any questions, or did you get any great information or something?
I think it was more like everyone was geared, to perform really well. Of course, so it's before I got to compete in the first and third day. Then I got to stay 2 weeks after.
How cool!
Oh, and I was on break in Barcelona.
Oh, dude!
So that was
How do you work that out, guys? Run 90 miles a week. That's a start. Not guaranteed you make it there.
I got to go to the gold medal game. I got to go to the gold medal tennis match. So I got to experience the village, but it was more like when I got a chance to meet these guys or ladies, it was like they were just talking about their next workout or when their next competitions were. Not that many of them
focused. Yeah,
just focused.
Did you get to hang with anybody from any sport that was done their sports and was sticking around for that? Like,
I just really tried to go to to be able to go to the gold medal game with the dream team was amazing.
Well, and especially now, you know, it's just like
that team was just
that was the first year of
first year. 92 was it? I had Malone, Magic, Bird. Who else was on? Michael Jordan. I mean, it was just Leitner. It was just an amazing.
So Olympic Village isn't just that big party village that everybody talks about.
There was some stuff going on.
Yeah, not the hockey guys. I was thinking there that Charlie might have had a little something. Roenick and those guys, they might have left their mark. But
and Barcelona was a great place to have some fun too. So
summer, just the winter sports. That's where the winter ones where the hockey team might have had some fun.
Yeah. Right.
Allegedly. I don't know. I'm Canadian. I never got to go to the Olympics, so it's all hearsay to me.
It's pretty, at that level, too, it's the extreme personalities, too, man. I mean, there's a lot of it getting after it, And
you got the boy. For example, anybody watch the Wilder Fury fight?
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah. Before the match, Wilder's pacing, and then there's that one point where the camera goes and shows Fury in his dressing room, and he's talking. He's watching the screen, watching Wilder pace. He's going, dude, look at him pace back and forth, like two different ways to get ready for a match. And I guess in the individual sports, a lot of times you might see a little bit more diva, even in the guys,
like wrestling.
Yeah.
Are there divas in wrestling? Terry, are there divas in wrestling?
I think the guys are more divas than the women. Yeah. So
that's unbelievable. That's usually the way it is.
Not really. I mean, you have some divas, but
that's life.
Yeah.
It's just like anything else. Yeah, you realize that it's just wow, life. There's 8 out of 10 are good, and just you got to realize which 2 aren't.
Yeah. Were you surprised by the Wilder Fury outcome?
No.
Really?
Not because of like the way that it started and Fury, just about how he, from now on, he's a guy that when he tells you he's going to do something, he's going to do it. And the way he leaned on him and the way that, he caught him and just after he knew and plus he trained with the Kronk guys.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And he changed.
He's a better boxer. He's just a better boxer.
Well, right. Here's the thing: is this big man that at his size, half the fight. If you've seen him, he looks like he's not proportioned,
awkward.
dude. His little legs. I was like, how's he stay up? And then his arms are as big as his legs, and then whap whap.
He's got that
and
power.
then he's got soft feet.
Yeah.
He can float, but the way he leaned on him, the way he hit him, and it just was. And to me, if you watch the fight. Anybody else, the fact that he sang American Pie and he sang it great and he had the whole crowd singing it and he knew every word, and at the end he just fought a world championship heavyweight match and he says thanks for having us, Vegas.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy's got me at hook, line, and sinker.
You've had a few fights, right?
Yeah, maybe one or two.
One or two. Yeah.
I mean, you can't get the nose like
one.
this from the piano.
Right.
You can only fall face first drunk so many times before your nose.
I mean, the Claude Lemieux fight was probably the most iconic.
You get asked that a lot.
I'm sure.
Oh no! Well, obviously, it's funny because if anybody out there hears this coming up Monday, March 2nd,
if anybody hears
Colorado, yeah. Well, it's low expectations,
That's
right?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going by what you guys tell me. All 3 people out here, if you haven't seen, but Colorado's coming to town on Monday the 2nd, and I'm doing a pre event, and I'm going to break down and tell everybody exactly why that's sort of Red Wing D-Day, but also too is what it meant, because it's the ultimate of falling down, getting back up, never saying quit, and coming together. And I'm grateful that there's a Russian 5 documentary out there.
Oh, yeah.
I've watched that like 4 times.
But
already.
I've seen
great.
15, but I see something different every time. And anybody out there, I don't apologize. I took it from PG to PG-13, but it's the real of. And when I watch that as somebody who was in it, it's 100% true. Like I watch that to get the feeling and the whole thing with that date. And just a quick little synopsis is because 97, this was March 26th, coming up on 23 years. Well, as the Red Wings, we'd lost. We won the President's Trophy. I came in 93 with Scotty. We won the President's Trophy, lost the first round. President's Trophy is the top team in the league at all 30 teams, or 31 or 32, whatever they have now. And so then we lost in the lockout year in the finals to Jersey. Then we set the league record and lost to Colorado in 6 games, and that 6 games right in front of me, not just a centerman, but my best friend of the grind line, Chris Draper, gets his jaw broken in 4 spots. He crushes his orbital bone. He's got a titanium plate in his face. And the whole thing is that I implore to everybody is that, dude, this is in life and in hockey, things happen, but you can't lose respect for a human being. And the fact that Claude Lemieux said after that he was not sorry, that screw Chris Draper, because you would have never heard of him unless I did this, and I probably just made him so much more money. So, whoa, pump the brakes there. That's just that's a vulnerable truth and integrity that in real life, right, that, there's some bad things that could happen to human beings, right? You know what I mean? It's just morally. So the whole thing that I implore to people is that happened in May. March is 10 months later. I mean, I'm a very spirit. No, but I waited. We didn't have a choice. We lost the 3 games that we played him during the year, and he played in 1. I had a chance in Colorado, but I didn't really have a good chance. But I knew we had the last game. But I was driving myself insane that finally at the beginning of March, I got on my knees. I said, God, I can't do this anymore, because I'm an alcoholic, so I'm in the throes of alcoholism. I'm trying to insomniac, trying to sleep, trying to figure out how I'm not going to go to jail to get this guy back, even though I know the people in Michigan would have sent me commissary at Jackson. I know that. It would have been all right. Right? So I prayed and I said, whatever happens, please, God, let me be the messenger. Oh, my gosh. You think he listened? Because not only do I get this unbelievable, the revenge, which if you watch Russian 5, you see that Igor Larionov, the biggest pacifist in hockey and in life next to Gandhi, that's all 5'5", 140 pounds of them, has enough with their guy Peter Forsberg, and it starts, and I end up unloading the greatest cold cock in the history of cold cocks on the villain. End up getting to pay some retribution by smashing his face against the boards right in front of drapes. Eye for an eye, Genesis, Old Testament. Yeah. That's why I tell everybody I think I'm more Jewish than I think. Because but the whole thing doesn't matter. I don't know. The goalies are fighting in the background. All this melee's going on. The whole point of the matter, right, is I'm not going to say it wouldn't have mattered if we didn't win the game, but the fact we were down 5-3, we tied up, goes into overtime, and I score the overtime winner. No, I get the revenge, and I score the overtime winner. Anybody else out there get it? That well, not only listen, but there's might be like a little bit bigger plans on this earth for me as far as, where it is now. And that really helped me a lot looking back. As you say, Todd, we're humans. We've all misstepped, and it's just sort of the self-awareness to where you want to be. So, hindsight's a great thing. Because that happens March 97, then we end up winning a cup, and then, but still it's not easy, because the Russian 5 is great, because not only does it tell you history of the fall of communism and how we got these guys, but how didn't matter what religion, what language, whatever else, you look left or right and you were a brotherhood. And then we attain it and we win. And then 3 days later, we pretty much lose a guy in Vladimir Konstantinov in that limo accident. So what I implored everybody is there is never really, that hug for everybody, because as I was telling you guys, is what we realize now is we all grew up together. We all grew up together. No matter where we went, if we left, we came home, whatever, we all grew up together, eating the same food, eating the same sort of stuff, watching the same TV, going through the 9/11s together, emotion. So do not forget that as of this is how we got here. So the fact that we were able to win again in 98 and have Vladdy out there, but this really gives a hug to the fact of what happened, and this is why, because at the premiere last year in Royal Oak
For Russian 5.
For the Russian
Right,
5,
right.
his daughter, Anastasia, Vladimir Konstantinov's daughter, wheels him in a wheelchair. And I asked his daughter, who's 32 now, in the movie she's like 3 or 4 or whatever, and I said, how many times your dad seen the film? And she says, I don't know. Every time he watched it, he goes to his happy place. He realizes, guys, to the fact that in the movie, that the producers and the director and Dan Milstein, they wrote letters to Brian May and Queen to get them to release "We Are the Champions," and at the end of the premiere, Vladdy's singing "We Are the Champions" with the
That's
crowd,
amazing.
right?
That's
So
amazing.
there's the hug. There's the hug of for all of us that, you know what, in the worst of situations, maybe that's a little bit of a hey, but it you know, to go back to it, you know, a little egotistical, Terry, but you said it's all about us on this show. So, yeah, it's a Red Wing D-Day right there.
Well, no,
March 26th.
the great thing about it is it just like you were saying, we all grew up together. We're all a family, and one falls, we all fall, and it's having each other's backs. And sometimes the villains, when they're put in their place, they realize that they were, you know, they might have done wrong or they might have said the wrong thing. And, you know, sometimes in life when, you know, you need a punch to the face to wake you up. And, you know, growing up as a kid, we stepped out of line and we were wrong. Our parents, you know, I was blessed to have good parents that put us back in line.
Right.
Not necessarily punch us in the face, but, you know, actually, my brother actually got a hand.
or back in the day, you know,
Slap up the
but you
head,
only had to do that once.
Right,
once.
right.
I got smacked around
all
one
have it.
time.
Right, and you learn. man.
No,
You
exactly.
learn.
I'm not going to
Yeah,
do that again. But
yeah.
the whole point at the end of the game, too, and it's because Red Wing Nation everywhere. At the end of that game, it was the proverbial sigh of relief. It's going to be all right. I don't know what it means, but it's going to be all right. And I tell everybody, I had I've only had that feeling twice. That night, at the end of that game, after scoring that goal, and when Steve Eisman was introduced as GM for the Detroit Red Wings,
yeah.
it's the same thing. I tell everybody, it's when, not when. I don't know when, but it's gonna happen. The culture's getting there, and this is the thing for all of us at this age that have been through it, is to tell the younger generation what's coming, but also get ready ourselves, because it's the same people putting the same thing, even though we're not doing it on the ice, but it's gonna instill the whole thing, and that's what that's what I love, because even though they stink in the standings,
Right.
the culture's getting right down at LCA, and I enjoy being down there all the time now, and that says something.
Yeah, and I actually went to the game on New Year's Eve, and I seen you down there. And what was great is, you know, when you go there as a fan, you see in the importance, whether it's in wrestling or whether it's in hockey or football, especially if you have a player that's so charismatic like yourself. And one, you can talk to the younger generation, help them out, because a lot of them are kind of navigating through, you know, the blind, like, okay, what should I do in this situation, whether it's on the ice or off the ice. And it's very important, because if you sink a lot of money into a talent and they decide to go the other way when you can help them go the right way.
Right.
It's so, I mean, having guys like you and I around, you know, to help that younger generation, and Todd,
Everybody here but Gary.
Right.
Thank you. As long as I get my
Low
name mentioned
expectations.
once in a while, I'm
Low
good.
expectations.
But it's so important to help that younger generation. And plus, when I went in there and I seen you, and it's just like, you know, throughout the game, hearing you, like, you know, pop up here and there, it's so important, not only to help the younger guys, but to the hockey fans or the wrestling fans when they still see you out there, because it's a generational thing.
Absolutely.
My father would always talk about Gordie Howe and this and that, and how he watched them play and win the Stanley Cup. And then it's like you're doing the same thing for the kids nowadays, because they're going, you know, whenever you're doing a signing or when they see you at the thing, and you're very open to the fans and stuff. I actually came over and we grabbed a picture. But, you know, fans, you know, it's that connection between the children and the adults, the parents. You know, you have that connection, which you cannot replace that.
Well, and I think you understand that too. And here's the thing, is that when you bring up the older generation, like for us, when your dad or my grandfather talks about Gordie Howe and Ted Lindsay, I mean, that was like William Wallace, and it was missed, even though I got to meet the guys. The difference now is the employers, that we're closer to closer to being able to not only relate, and I can't relate to the game. I think what you brought up is what's most important. I'm more concerned off the ice. These guys staying on track. I'll let Stevie and Drapes and those guys figure out the on ice stuff, but it's just so that they do not, of any of us at this table, have to go through the same heartaches if they can avoid it, because they say, hey, I've been there, this is what happened, and they say, yeah, you know what, I'm going to trust that because the intention is pure, but you stay on point. So it's letting them know, and that's why, like I said, to explain the story that don't understand, but you're more connected now.
Yep.
And when we talk wrestling, or you talk with jiu-jitsu, you talk mixed martial arts and stuff like that, there's more of a connection to the youth that you can have because you have to relate to them. And it's like you said about it comes down to the hard work, and it comes down to, guys, I don't want you to make the same mistakes I did, because this is what happens.
Yes. Right.
And it's leading. It's just like now, when I had my 20-year running career, and my goal was always to be the hardest worker. I want to be the hardest worker on the Olympic team. Sprinting, distance runners, whatever it was. I wanted to be known as the guy that was the hardest working guy. When I retired from the running career and then I started jiu-jitsu, I own my school here, and I think I'm the hardest working, and I'm the teacher and the owner.
Right.
But I think this morning I ran 3 miles, I did 100 push-ups, 100 crunches, 100 lunges. I lead by example. I'm on the mat every day. I'm training, 6 times 6-minute rounds with my students. And so when they walk out of there, like, he's fit,
that's why I train boxing in the summertime.
Yeah. It's like, I want them to go, I just don't want to be the guy that shows up and then leave. I want them to go, I know that's what we have to do.
Yeah.
We've got, if we want to go to a tournament, if we want to do well, we've got to show up. We've got to train hard. There is no excuses, and that's what you do.
There's nothing like watching somebody. Well, it's the whole thing is when you understand the uncomfortableness is the change or the growth, and nothing like watching somebody push through that threshold that they don't think they can get, and then they click in to go, oh my gosh, I got another gear. It's like, it's like that invisible wall. But the whole thing is too, and it comes back to what Terry was saying. It's about the trust. The trust and the communication, and that's where it is, and that's what I try to implore. No matter what I'm talking about, I say enjoy my truth. This is the way I see it. I've been blessed that I realized that the ups and downs that I've had and living them so publicly, it's put me in the position now to be able that people say, oh, well, I'm going to listen whether I agree or I don't, but I know that he's genuine. He's not full of shit.
Right.
If it's coming,
which is huge.
And especially in today's day and age. So I think that I really cherish that. You know what I mean? I know what a responsibility that I have with that, and I embrace that, and that's why I do so many things. Like my guys call me the octopus, and it's just like, which arm are we on today?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, what we do here, we do Facebook Live a little bit. We answer some questions. We're on Facebook Live right now, so say hi. Yeah. One of the questions we have is for Darren. Darren, I know you are a UCP alumni. Charity hockey game is coming.
Yeah.
But how many charity games does the DRW schedule?
Yeah, the Red Wing alumni. I think there's probably 15 games throughout the year. I know there's one Sunday in Lansing. For the Millers, all 840 Millers that come out of Lansing, but we have one there, but about 15. But yeah, the UCP one is in Orchard Lake. I'm not sure the date, end of the month, I believe. But the Cerebral Palsy and by our buddy Jay Adams.
Right.
The next question is about Jay Adams, actually.
Oh, is it? Yeah. What? He can't handle my stunner. Oh, is that it?
Well, he wants to know
how many chairs would it take to knock him down?
If he donates extra, will you cross-check J.R. Adams for us? Our good friend J.R. Adams.
Yeah, you know what? He's my good friend J.R. Adams, and that goes without saying. The first one's free.
No.
First one's free, just for you.
We're getting you on here pretty soon, Jay, so...
Just before we go on, it's funny because when I was doing a local show, probably like for DBA Insane Championship Wrestling, XICW, Jay would always walk in with his wife, and for whatever reason, I never had a shirt on, and I'd always give her a shirtless hug. It just happened to work. So it just became a gimmick, right? Yeah. So she's like, you always have your shirt off, right? And I'm like, yeah, I know. It's weird. So there's a couple times when she walked in, I just took my shirt off. But yeah, she's a great girl, and I always tell her, I'm like, funny. Man, Jay really lucked out when he met you, or did you just lose a bet, right?
Yeah.
Next question is also from Patrick Mendez. It's for Rhino. IWR, Insane Wrestling Revolution 1, DTA attacks Rhino. Insane Wrestling Revolution 2, Madman Fulton attacks Rhino. Why is everyone attacking Rhino? I feel bad.
I don't know.
Right?
That's why I gotta ask Todd to show me how to run, because I'm not really good at running. And I gotta ask Darren if he can have my back.
I got your back, bro.
I'm
all ready.
There you go. Because if that doesn't work out, which I'm sure it will, I at least know how to run. So, or I'll just run and say, Darren, take care of it.
You need some backup.
Right. Especially coming up on April 23rd, Madman Fulton, and they're part of the OVE. Yeah. They travel in pack, so we'll figure something out.
Well, maybe Darren.
Don't put them on the spot. We got to sweet talk them. We got to get these guys.
There's no sweet talk. My boy needs me. I'm back. I'm like Benjamin Button. About 4 or 5 years ago, you'd want some of this. Right now, boys, I don't think you do, but we'll see. Just remember, I'm no Paul Hyman. I have the mouth,
right,
and I will talk about my boy in that way when he's going to run all over you. But there'll be no sneak attacks. They won't be anything like that. We're going to keep it fair and square so my boy can flex all over your punk ass.
I think he does better promos than you.
I know, he does.
My goodness.
Where were you about 15 years ago? I needed you.
Better late than ever, bro.
Exactly.
Better late than ever.
Exactly.
Mark Bradley wants to know, can you ask Darren who his favorite Red Wing was to play with?
That's a great question. Just as far as how much fun we had. And I'm going to say, and I'm only going to say this, because he's the prankster, the jokester, and you always had to be on your guard. But Chris Osgood could be one of the funniest people. And the best is, I'll tell you this, Kevin Hodgson. We called him Ticker. He was our backup goalie, 96, 7, 8. Scotty knew he was so important in the dressing room because he could make everybody laugh. In fact, have you ever had, I don't know if I can say this or not, but he used to have this little gimmick on the road. It'd be called the turd burglar, right? Where you go and drop a dump in the bathroom before anybody got there in the morning. And then when guys would go in and you'd open up, you go, come on, man. And then he'd come out in this mask and he'd go, you meant turd burglar, bam, and he'd run away. So Kevin Hodgson, Ticker, and we called him Ticker because his heart rate went to he was in net the one time and he had to come out because his heart rate went to 240.
Really?
Or something. He had an arrhythmia. So from then on, hockey guys, we're sensitive. So we called him Ticker.
Right.
There's only a couple more questions here. Can we see either of these three gentlemen coming up at the 2020 Monroe Pop Fest? We know that.
When's the date?
September 19th.
Well, you know what? That's 14th. A lot. That's a ways out, but I'm gonna plan. I'm gonna try to plan on it, seeing as that one of my arms is So I wrote a book in 2012, my last fight, true story of a hockey rock star, and Mess Bucket Comics and our buddy Dom Ruggiero has not only we're taking that. It'll be out at the end of the year, but 150-page graphic novel that Billy Tucci he's done. He's awesome.
Billy's awesome.
Islander fan. Yeah. Islanders. I love the Islanders. The better.
We'll overlook that because he's an awesome.
He is. Guy. But then also too Donnybrook. So there's a comic book on hockey and minor league hockey, and I'm like the executive producer with some of the stories. Some of the stories that I can't really tell that are allegedly true, but maybe not.
Right.
They're in this comic book, and the best part is we he started the Michigan Massacres, the first team. So in the second book, which is coming out in the next week or so, is I created a team called the Burnaby Blazers. I'm from Burnaby, British Columbia, Canada. That's where I was born, even though I grew up across the border. So the Burnaby Blazers are a whole bunch of pot-smoking lumberjacks from Burnaby that are going to come down and wreak havoc. Brandon Inch, former third baseman for the Tigers. He has the Lynchburg Moonshiners.
Nice.
Brian O'Halloran, who played Dante in Clerks,
he has a team.
Has the Hell's Kitchen Heathens. Roddy Piper's estate has the Kilted Avengers.
Nice.
So there's a lot of talk. So a lot of great stuff coming on. But definitely Unless I'm out of the country or unless I'm, hitting guys with chairs because Rhino's wrestling, we'll be there.
Sounds good. All right, last question. Does Darren still play darts? Christopher Hampton wants to know if you still play darts.
I quit drinking, and that ended my dart career.
And there you have it. All right, thanks for
But I have a
live.
fourth in states
Really?
in doubles. Yeah.
Nice.
You got a book coming out too, don't you?
Yeah, well, we won't talk about that.
All right, make sure you subscribe, guys. See ya. So that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, really interesting. Good questions. Good questions.
Yeah, always good questions. These
Yeah.
guys are fans. I mean,
Right.
they want to know. This is the way to talk to you guys.
Exactly.
I mean,
No, and that's the whole thing. It's the facilitation to know that there's different things. That's the one thing is like you were talking about, the 3-minute rounds, 30-second. Dude,
Oh, yeah.
I boxed with Al Iris, who's a Gold Gloves boxer. Shout out to Al if you're around. He was a Gold Gloves boxer out of New York. Had an eye injury, but I trained with him for 10 years. And then near the end, so like 04, 05, that's when the UFC started coming.
Right.
So I actually got to roll and do some jiu-jitsu and stuff like that. And I was like, man, where was this like at the beginning of my career? If I could learn jiu-jitsu, man, I would mess guys up on the ice.
Yeah, you do a lot of training, don't you? As far as like for police officers and
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I think it's the greatest, because you're using the if I'm saying this right, you're using the opponent against.
Oh, yeah. Look at those ears.
some cauliflower ears.
cow.
It's like, you can't see it, but we can see it.
Yeah, those are.
God,
That's
I'm
20
hungry.
years. That's
I'm
20 years
Wow.
of jiu-jitsu
Wow.
and judo and wrestling. So it's like I have I've got the running career where I was, running 100 miles a week, 130 miles a week. And then I took 1 week off of running in 2002. And then I jumped on the mat.
I was going to say, if you got those from running, dude,
No,
you're
no,
really
no, no, no.
fast.
He's doing something
How
wrong.
fast is this guy?
But
if you get cauliflower ears from
by
running,
running,
well,
yeah.
okay.
That's the thing
God,
about like jiu-jitsu too. It's single leg, double leg, revert. I mean, it's where I'm on the mat 30 hours a week still. So like like tonight I'll teach for 2 hours. It's like we're doing some arm bars, triangles, kimuras, Americanas, all the drilling over and over and over in repetition. I'm on the mat 30 hours a week.
So is it a form of wrestling? I mean,
It's
is
wrestling
like
and
grappling
judo. It's
or?
wrestling and judo combined. So there's submissions. So you get if you do a double leg, you secure the position on top, and then I always say jiu-jitsu is not about fighting; it's about stopping the fight. It's a nice way to say
it's
it.
more of a defensive, but using you against you.
Yeah.
So using you to my advantage.
Welcome to the show, Gary.
You gotta
Come on
show.
now.
Yeah, so to me, I always say like when anybody comes in bully-proof stuff, or I want my kid to be able to protect themselves. It's like, I don't want to say that this is about fighting, but if somebody's aggressive towards you, you should, after training jiu-jitsu for a little bit, as long as you treat it serious and train hard, you should be able to flip the switch.
Yeah,
and stop the
it's a
fight.
respect because you understand, you know what you're up against. And
Yeah.
that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
Are you still
great.
doing the? Oh, go ahead.
Oh, the Gracies were really big jiu-jitsu.
Yeah,
right?
so I've
Yeah.
always been. I wrestled as a kid here at Monroe when I was. I've got these. My mom kept every certificate that I ever had. Right,
Nice.
so 50-pound weight division, 55, 60, 65. So I wrestled from age.
Gary was in that weight division with
Yeah.
us too.
Right.
And so I was kind of in the Midwest. You're on the mat, right? A lot of times in the Midwest, it's a big
Yeah.
wrestling area. So I wrestled as a kid, and then when I got into my running into the other sports, but as soon as I stopped running, I was down at the University of Tennessee. I still lived in Knoxville, and I knew that with my personality, I knew that I needed something because
Yeah, you're wired tight.
yeah,
bro.
yeah.
Right.
So it's like I knew I wanted something. So I watched UFC. I was a huge fan, and then everybody watched the Hoist Gracie UFC 1, 2, and 3.
Right.
And I was going to the weight room, and I looked across the weight room, and it said Gracie Barra Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, and I'm like, I'm just gonna go try it.
I love
And there was this little Brazilian guy. His name was Eliosa Neca Moreira, and he's 145, 150 pounds. And he's like, you want to try? And there was nobody there. 2002, not that many people did jiu-jitsu, right? But he was amazing. I thought I could use some of my wrestling and do whatever. And he made me tap
Really?
nice. He made me tap
Yeah,
a
yeah.
nice way, like, I don't know, 25 times in
Yeah.
6 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he goes, you think you'll come back? And I said, I'm coming back tonight.
Yeah.
And I never stopped since. That was in 2002. And I haven't missed. I've trained at least 2 times a week since 2002. I've never missed.
Nice.
Now, what's the Run Safe program that you also do?
So Run Safer, I took in 2011. I took my 2 Olympic teams and my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and I started my own company called Run Safer. And I travel the United States, and I teach self-defense and safety awareness clinics inside running stores at universities, colleges, corporations, and I'll do a 60-minute presentations on how jiu-jitsu and how making smart choices about your safety can keep you out of harm's way.
Yeah, it makes sense too. A lot of, especially in like a lot of the cities. I watch a lot of ID networks, so a lot of You know, there's a lot of, but just because a lot of it is just to get that split second, and it's not about having to fight it off. Right. It's showing that you are capable of it. Most offenders, right? They're looking for easy prey, and so when you can at least make some noise and stuff, and when you show, like, you give them that little look in your eyes, like, all right, I don't want to do this, but we're going to do this.
Right.
We're going to do this.
That's 100%. That's what I always say. It's like, I'm not going to teach anybody in 60 minutes to be a UFC fighter. But what I can teach them is, number one, situational awareness, having your eyes up, making eye contact, because you're right. They want an easy prey. So if I can teach them just enough in 60 to show them what jiu-jitsu is, so hopefully they can.
Plus, you give me a little bit of time, and I can teach pretty much anybody how to get a quick shot in on somebody's nose or
shock and awe and get out.
Yeah, right. Shock and awe. You know, because that's like, this ain't hero time.
Right.
You know, we're talking about run safe. We're talking about your life survival. Like, unfortunately, it's unfortunately we have to talk about it, but it's a reality.
It is. Right. And it is, when you look at it, it's like, how many runners or joggers or walkers get attacked? I'm like, look, I'm not saying that's a lot, but all you need to do is get on Google and punch in.
One's more than enough. That's all I'm.
It's my daughters. My daughters know. My daughters are 23, and Bailey will be 20 coming up, and they're trained. Yeah. I want them to always be trained more, but I know as a dad, I've given them everything I possibly can. Now that they're older, if somebody put their hands on them,
right? No, and that's all you can do. I have 4 girls. And so it's between 16 and 26. Yeah. So I mean, that's all you can hope for.
Yeah. Right. I always say when I think about jiu-jitsu, how much I love it, and then you're talking about boxing. I think those two, and you had Bronco in here last week. I'm a huge Bronco fan because he's an extremely hardworking guy. It's like those are the two arts, like boxing, and of course you throw wrestling in there too. Because if I could fight a little boy and he was 4, he'd be on the wrestling mat first to understand.
Well, it's like
grind.
You know what? It's like figure skating to hockey skating. Like, if I had to do it again, I would learn myself by figure skating to learn the technique before I got on the ice skates, or at the same time to understand, like the basis of it.
Yeah. I hear a lot of football players take like ballet and stuff in it.
Boxing.
Yeah, especially wide receivers. Think about it. Right. Wide receivers, because toe touching the line, having to get both feet in, all that. And I think that's the great thing, is that when you look at all the different ways to prepare yourself, that there's no just static, you have to go in and pick up that barbell. No, there's different ways. Because I wasn't one that, I hate lifting weights, and I mean, I'm not good at it, and but I'll do a circuit training and I'll step in a ring for 10 rounds and absolutely, because of the conditioning, and you mentioned the jiu-jitsu. Like, I enjoyed fighting in hockey until they put the jersey rule in, because that took strategy away from me. Where I could always fight guys that were bigger. I'm 6'1". 210, right? And I could fight guys that were 30, 40 pounds heavier than me and 2, 3, 4 inches, because I could get out of my jersey, and because it was more of it was technical, it was tactical. If you watch any of my fights, I'm always moving, so you don't get a square shot. I'm never going to take that one on the button. I've gotten hit hard. I realized early on that there's 2 types of guys. I'm a bleeder, which is great for photos, but I got a cement head, which is, I learned I got whacked with a baseball bat between the eyes when I was 11 and didn't go down. So I realized that, right, which makes for some great pictures. But you got to understand what you're dealing with. Still, you don't take one, and that's the whole thing. And that's, to me, that's when the game changed. Like, it was like, oh, that sucks. Why are you giving all these? Now you're going to, and plus now they have defensive linemen and linebackers playing hockey and stuff. Like, it's, I'm glad I retired.
Right. Well, in wrestling, there's a saying, red turns green. So if you're a bleeder, that usually, the comeback.
Oh, man, I'm in.
Yeah,
we got it all.
We're going to draw some serious money at IWR. How about I'll be in your corner and we'll just put you in the ring with me?
No. I'm better. I'm better coming in dirty or something.
Yeah, there you go. So. But yeah, the uncomfortable pause. We usually have one uncomfortable pause.
Well, that's because Gary's too busy slamming his iced coffee.
Yeah. I am just amazed by the conversation going on. I mean, it almost runs itself. It's
right.
I'm have good guests.
Conversation, So, but go ahead, Gary. You're in charge.
I'm in charge. Well, let's talk about our sponsors.
Okay, let's talk about our sponsors. Do we have any?
Oh, just Big Daddy's Boatyard and the Monroe Pop Fest.
There you go. Yeah, if you're looking for a dock, come on down. If you're looking to go to the Pop Fest, and
there you go.
And then IWR on the 23rd of April.
Where's that at?
Fulton, at the FOP right down here in Monroe, Michigan.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the last event we had there.
Yeah, the hardcore match.
Right.
I got slammed in Legos. Have you ever stepped on Legos when you were a kid or a parent, and your kids left the Legos out and you had bare feet? Oh, try getting
and you got
slammed
slammed on them.
Yeah. So,
what's the worst thing you ever got body?
Oh,
like what is it? Like if I see something in a match where somebody's got like, what is one where it's like, hey, we're gonna do this tonight, and the guy's like, oh man, that just sucks. Or when you see it coming, like what's something I want to know something when I'm watching. It doesn't matter what wrestling, but because it's the guy who takes the beating that I've learned to accustom. It's like to get the match over or whatever, but he's got to know whether. It's in the routine or whatever. Like, okay, I'm taking this finisher, but like when they get into slamming on that, like I saw the one what's the Japanese Yakamoto or what? Somebody slammed through the table and it didn't break, or the stanchion, and then when it doesn't, like that's just one where I went, oh, that's gotta hurt. Like those are the ones when they don't break, right?
Yeah. When they don't break, you're just like because your body's expecting it and you land on it, expecting to go through it, and and then when it don't break, your body just starts turning and manipulating in ways it's not meant to, go. And it's pretty rough or if you're jumping off of some guys jumping off of the top rope and it don't break, and then it's just terrible. But usually whenever if I wrestle someone I don't want to wrestle because they're very dangerous, that's when I'm like, oh man.
Dangerous,
and that's dangerous because they'll put and this is the one thing that I said I learned is that it's like a dance. Right. So when you have a dance partner that you like dance with, or a buddy out at the bar that you like drinking with, right? You always got these friends that, we like them and stuff, but, they get too few many beers in them and you don't want to be around them. Right. That's sort of like the thing with the guy that doesn't spend the time in the joint, like,
or
right? Where let me ask you this, because, as wrestling's gotten back big, and stuff like that, I'm a huge fan of it. But then when they say like a guy like a Daniel Bryan or whatever, when you watch his matches, but guys love wrestling him because he makes them,
great. Yeah.
But like he
helps them like,
what are they, he makes them, he makes the opponent come over, like,
he really
makes them look good, right?
Makes them look good and stuff like that. And he's just very fluent in his style.
So what would you say on the opposite end, when you are wrestling a guy you like, then that's when
it's so
like, so how do you know if a guy is there a way that as a viewer I can tell if these two guys, other than if they've wrestled a lot in the past, or because sometimes you see the chemistry, right? Like there's just chemistry.
You feel the chemistry too come through the TV. Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about. And then sometimes when you're watching, you can see, and they might put guys together in a program where they'll draw money, but they don't have chemistry.
Right.
They'll make it work, but you don't really feel it and see it as much as the guys and girls that have chemistry. And the cool thing about Impact Wrestling, the company I work for now, is they're not afraid to let guys wrestle with girls. And the way they sell it, it's a competition. It's wrestling. It's not because you'll have some groups say it's teaching kids the wrong thing. But what they do is they treat because there's a couple guys with Tessa Blanchard. She's got she's got chemistry with not just the female competitors, but the male competitors too. And it's cool because you see that magic, and you're not doing anything where it's inappropriate, or you're not doing any kind of like sexual gestures towards her. You're in there, and it's a war sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So
like and that's the great. You know what? That's the great thing. Like, don't get it. And here's. I got to meet Alexa Bliss there at.
She's great, isn't she?
Dude, I had like 2 minutes like conversation, and like not only is holy shit is she tiny to be able to do Twisted Bliss and all that stuff, but engaged and friendly, and watch her with everybody else. Like really, like I love to see people who love the fans or love being there, and that's it makes me root for him more when I see that the way it is. And just it wasn't even, I wasn't even supposed to meet her. She was walking by in passing, and one of the security guys was my buddy, and I just said, hey, Lex, a big fan, whatever. And they told her, and she stopped. She said, we just talked for a couple minutes. And it was like, wow, you're small. And and
Sweet,
you're
too.
friendly.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
and it's cool because when you watch that, and I think you could probably talk about this more, is that the evolution of the female wrestler technically, because
Right.
they're good now.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
I mean, you
right.
look at, you look at all the top names, but you see the development and all that, like you said, like Impact and all that stuff. What
Yeah.
is that's incredible.
Yeah, I think the ones that really paved the way is like Lita. I remember watching
Lita
Lita
was
back
awesome.
in
Yeah,
She was
dude.
there, too.
in
I know,
99.
and the sweetheart too, because she got a
Yeah.
picture with my boy Billy, and he's all geeked out. So.
Right. And and she was in ECW, and then I watched her wrestle, and then when she went to WWF back then, now WWE, but she had a style like
Yeah.
you're just like, it's almost like watching Dean Malenko or Eddie Guerrero in the ring, and and then with Trish and several other females, they kind of like paved the way for like your Sasha Banks and
Yeah.
Alexis Bliss. They were watching that group of female wrestlers, and then it just continued to have more and more women come out and go to the NXT and develop. And now you look at them and you're like, wow, as a male wrestler, you're like, I want to get in the ring because we could do so much cool stuff.
Well, doesn't it bring out more of like it's clans or factions? Like you can get deeper into the family or the lineage or whatever like this, and you can go so many different places, and especially when you don't know who can be involved, right? Like that was always this thing if somebody jumped faction or whatever, but it was like you could always see it coming.
Right.
Well,
you said also something, not to cut you off, but a lot of the male wrestlers, back in the 80s and stuff, they had daughters, and the generations.
Charlotte Flair is
Charlotte
great.
Flair, and it's amazing because Tessa Blanchard is Tully's daughter, but her stepdad is Magnum TA.
Oh wow!
And I looked at her and I said, wow. When I found out Magnum was her.
And you could see it.
And I told her, I go, you better be really good, or
Yeah.
there's going to be a lot of wrestling fans, they're going to be mad at you.
How was the
because
transition with Ronda Rousey?
it was great. It was great. The cool thing is because I was there, and she really, she was training before the shows, after the shows, the live events, that's bring up the correlation, but like where Todd says, because that's coming from the MMA, the mixed martial arts, but it's the work ethic, right? Because anything you get out is what you put in, and it's all hard work, right? It's all hard work. So that makes, so whether it's not about the fail or succeed, it's I love that people put all in and put the work into whatever it else. That makes me feel good to hear
I'm
that.
watching the Bella Twins, like you see the training. You're talking about the training. They're doing jiu-jitsu training. They're doing. I mean, they're getting after it. I mean,
they're great. They're great. I'll tell
and
you.
they just got inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
So that
right.
I mean, I don't care what you say. That is that's huge. That says something, and it's a legacy.
Right. I'll tell you something about Ronda Rousey, right? So, I'm very blessed to have done it as long as I have. And, being put with Heath Slater and, just being the right place at the right time and just throughout the years. And the wrestling fans, they've really taken to me, and they're emotionally attached. How we were talking earlier about emotional attachment, whether it's hockey or track and field or jiu-jitsu or wrestling. So, the fans are, always behind me, and I've been very blessed, and I thank God for the career I've had so far. So, like Ronda Rousey, I'm the type of person, I'm sure you guys can relate. If someone comes into your sport from the outside because they have some steam, I'm the guy that, steps back, watches how they behave. Because some people come in with a reckless behavior, and some come in for the betterment of whether it's the business, whether it's the company, and you kind of watch. You've seen both. So I'm feeling her out, right? So, and I know because she would watch the monitors and to learn too. It's all about watching and learning too, not only just in the ring work. So she'd always say hi, and she was always really nice. But I'm like, okay, well, she might not have known anything of my background, which is fine. We're not all wrestling fans. So we did a thing in the ring where everybody starts a food fight, like all the tag teams, right? And all of a sudden, I'm just sitting there with sandwiches. I forget if they were ham or turkey sandwiches. And the whole thing is I'm just sitting there while all this chaos is going around me. I'm just eating sandwich, kind of like the Godfather, like watching this chaos, and then he steps in and he does his thing at the right moment, right? So anyways, I get back. She comes up to me, Ronda Rousey. She's like, that was so funny. And a lot of the wrestling fans loved it, right? Yeah. And I'm thinking to myself, all the good matches that I've had while she was here and watched, the crowd behind me, this and that. I just had to eat sandwiches, and I popped her. I'm like,
sometimes that's all it takes.
Right. And I'm like, you're my favorite human being right now, Ronda. And and it was cool because that was like our bonding experience, and so. But yeah, that was great. Out of all the stuff, and usually that's with the cheese and crackers, like Heath Slater and I, the people loved it too. Out of all the stuff you could do and the great matches, little stuff like that will get over. Not with the boys, but with the
right.
fans.
Those are the bits, and what you mentioned, Rhino. I think that it's the thing that I look for. It's the we's. Who are about the we's instead of about the I's.
Right.
And we've all seen that, and I think we just know to recognize it more and how it plays out, and it's
right. So
that's cool.
Time is getting short.
I know. This has been a great show.
It really has. I mean, like I said, the guest is what makes the show.
Right.
It's not me or you.
No.
Well, maybe you.
But yeah, of course. Come on, please stop.
But yeah, so we want to thank our guest, Darren McCarty.
Well, definitely let's plug, if any social media on Todd, if you'd like to go first, or if you're looking to get trained for, if you have a daughter.
So I mean, locally here in Michigan, I own my own gym, Monroe Jiu-Jitsu, so everybody's welcome to come train anytime you guys want to train.
What's the name of it? Do you
MonroeJiujitsu.com.
Okay.
And then all the information's on there. So again, that's MonroeJiujitsu.com. On Instagram, I'm Run Safer Todd. So that's pretty easy. That's my name on Run Safer. And then everything's on Facebook, from my Monroe Jiu-Jitsu to Run Safer.
Okay,
so,
great.
Great. Stop on.
And
you have a
podcast.
My podcast, Grind. Yeah, and you'll be on it soon.
Correct.
My podcast, Grind Time with Darren McCarty, on the NRM Streamcast, but you can find that at Spotify, iTunes, anywhere. Also, Darren McCarty Slapstick Comedy Tour, which travels around Michigan. Also, coming up soon, I'll be finalizing hosting an hour Friday show on WJR. And
nice.
Doing a sports show with Sean Belegian. So a lot of stuff happening. Lot that, I need people around me to remind me. So go to DarrenMcCarty.com if you're not sure.
There you go. That's what Gary's for. He reminds me.
Hello, Gary.
Right. Hello. I'm still here. Also, next week we have Travis McIntyre from Source Point Press.
And CK3, also known as Crimson, also known as the Ring-a-Ding Kid. He runs a school down there, a wrestling school down in Toledo. He's coming in.
So make sure Low Expectations Podcast, subscribe, iTunes, YouTube.
Correct.
Follow the Facebook page.
Exactly.
Yeah, give us some love.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for being here tonight, guys. Gonna wrap it up. Say goodbye.
See ya.
Bye.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.